Hi, I'm Tony. I'm an author, presenter at Sky Sports, and years ago I went to the jungle and got ill. Very ill. So this is my podcast adventure to find more energy. It's packed with biohacking, science, health tech, supplements, and some of the most well-known experts on the planet.
This is something I spent 4 months of my life doing with electrodes glued to my head so that you can do a lifetime worth of meditation.
Decide what you don't give a fuck about, which is something you don't care about.
Some of it gets quite out there.
I had some stem cells sent up to my house that I had stored, and then I injected myself with mannitol.
And we even hack hangovers.
Alcohol is poisonous. So is water and oxygen in the wrong dosage.
So that's my podcast, Zestology. Live life with energy, vitality, and motivation. Hello, welcome back to Zestology. It's nice to be out and about, walking and recording these podcast intros today, after a long winter when I seem to have been forced inside too many times. Today's podcast guest is someone I've been looking forward to interviewing for a long time, since Faith read her book, then I read her book, and I've known about her for a long time, heard her on Ben Greenfield's podcast as well. Nadine Artemis is a well-known author and aromacologist, which I actually didn't know such a thing existed until I came across Nadine's work, and I've learned a lot from her. In this podcast, we talk about aromacology. It's the study of the influence of odors on human behaviour. Absolutely fascinating how this works, and neatly fits into the category of biohacking, which we like to take a look at on this podcast. And we talk about sunshine vitamins, the power of essential oils for skin health and energy, energy through light, mouth breathing, which is something that interests me very much, and I've got a little mouth-breathing anecdote for you. Sunbathing and moonbathing. Don't be put off by the moonbathing. I know it sounds a bit out there, but it could give you as much energy as sunbathing, and this podcast is all about energy. We also talk ancient health wisdom, longevity, and a great app for more vitality as well, which I hadn't heard of, and Nadine tells me all about, and I've now downloaded. So here she is, Nadine Artemis on Zestology. The reason I first found out about you is my other half, Faith, had your book, and for about a month she'd be reading your book, and every night she'd be exclaiming, "Oh my goodness, you won't believe what I've just read in Nadine's book." So much so that in the end I read it myself, and I've got it here now. So she absolutely loves it, and I do too. It's brilliant.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, I wonder if a lot of men find out about it from their other halves. Probably.
Yeah, because obviously there's chapters that focus on specific female things like breasts and stuff, but breast health. But, obviously a lot of men know a lot of women, but I do often, like men, they'll come up, maybe for an autograph, signing the book or something. And, the book's just marked and highlighted, and they have so many questions about, sun care, or, because we want to know about every man has has skin that can be suntanned, or oral care. There's a great oral care chapter as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's start with those two then, because I've got a long list of things that it's almost like a kind of manual for natural health, which is the kind of stuff that I've been into for a long time, but it's great to have it all in one place. You talked about natural SPFs in the book. Which I found really interesting, and the SPF that is found in essential oils.
Well, okay, so SPF is really a term that can only be used for a synthetic ingredient, because of the whole regulation and testing to make something labeled as an SPF. So on one, like you actually, so jojoba or olive oil or coconut oil have what we would think of as sort of a sun protective quality. I think of it more as a sun harmonizing quality. Pretty much if using olive oil, for example, or jojoba will improve your time in the sun, will extend it. That's going to vary, right? If you have like Mediterranean skin or like Irish skin or whatever. So it's going to vary. So there's this sun harmonizing factor. And then with oils that have, then there's oils that have other protective qualities and for the sun, like fresh pressed raspberry seed oil has like an equivalent of an SPF 25. But again, we can't totally correlate because that's just for synthetics. But what the raspberry seed oil seems to do is it sort of scatters the rays. And so again, you can't probably put on raspberry seed oil and then sit out in the sun for 6 hours, or like what you would do with a normal 25 SPF. And then you've got the plants that are rich in pigments like calendula and sea buckthorn, and those add to a sun protective quality. And then you've got essential oils, which can protect in a different way. They would keep the cells, they keep the cells staying normal, because often when the cells are getting disorganized and abnormal, they're kind of going down another pathway. And so the essential oils are able to heal the skin, able to, work with, to generate cell activity that's stimulating and healing. So they're there for or they can help to cool and calm a sunburn. So we've got just so many uses out of the botanicals for sun quality that we don't have to be slathering on an SPF. But the thing is, besides the SPF being chemicals and, disrupting hormones and the endocrine system and a whole bunch of stuff, one of the issues that I think a big issue with SPF, besides the chemicals, is that when we slather on the SPF, we are then receiving the sun's rays divided from each other. So UVA and UVB, which are ultraviolet partners, are separated. So we no longer get UVB, and we're only, because it filters it out, and we're just getting the UVA, which on its own is actually damaging more to skin. And you're getting no vitamin D because the UVB ray is the vitamin D generating ray.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And certainly my adventures with finding natural sunscreens involves a lot of sun creams which make me look like I've got a face like a clown. So this is quite an appealing idea.
Well, yes. No, so that's zinc. And we also have Everybody Loves the Sunshine, which is this beautiful oil with the pigment, everything I've just mentioned and about 20 other beautiful ingredients. And then we've got Everybody Loves the Sunshine with zinc. So we use a non-nanoized, non-coated zinc, which is what hopefully you'll see when you're looking for something more natural. And zinc works because it deflects the rays. So you're literally having those rays bounce off. But that's more like a sunblock than an SPF. And it is hard to get away from the white stuff.
Yeah.
So we try and, we do formulate with pigments and different things to try and bring it back, but it's always there. But what's that is good for is like literally when you need to block. So like you're surfing for 5 hours, and you can't wear a hat. So, but otherwise we do want to rethink our relationship to the sun's rays and think about how we can interact with those rays wisely, so that we can get the immunoprotective qualities, the skin rejuvenating qualities, and this all the other stuff like the vitamin D. And I mean, the secrets from the sun's rays, I don't think we even can know everything, even with science today, because there's still wavelengths and stuff that we haven't figured out.
Yeah, I mean, what I love about this stuff, a lot of this stuff, all of it really, is that it's based on a lot of the natural health things that you talk about are based on really quite ancient wisdom. I'm sure that our ancestors used to do this a lot more than we do. And it's kind of, for many people, it's almost forgotten knowledge in some ways, isn't it? As chemicals have advanced, the power of the natural world has been forgotten.
Yes, I think it is being forgotten in different ways. And for sure, because we've really, since I was growing up, it's that you just learn that you just not to get, sunburn, and you don't learn anything else about it, or that, and so we're literally cutting off life force out of yes, you can totally get burnt by the sun. And a lot, most of us have had that, and it's not fun, and we don't want to do that on a regular basis. But, the body's actually designed to deal with that way more like a burn. The DNA is ready for it than to actually be, absorbing sun's rays with the SPFs. the body, that's new for the body. And what also we're learning right now is that vitamin D is very important for the current virus. It's one of the things that I think that the studies show that we can all agree on. And so it either lessens the effect, or, it's when the body is more sufficient in vitamin D. And so really, we're so lucky that we have the technology to have vitamin D supplements. And I definitely take them in the winter, like right now. But I'm also still, I've got 2 more days before the sun's rays start generating vitamin D again. And I'm in Canada. So
is that right? That seems very optimistic. We're recording this in early February. It does seem rather optimistic.
I know, isn't it? But they really will be long enough for the vitamin D again. We use an app called D-Minder.
Oh yeah. And
so it'll take your geographical location and the weather, and it will let you know, if you can get vitamin D that day, and how long you would want to be in the sun for. And the app is saying, I've got 2 more days.
Wow, that is great. I'm going to download D-Minder.
One of our awesome team people lives over in England, and so she actually has a few more days, which is interesting. Like, I can't remember what her app's saying, but we're similar on the same latitude line.
Okay, well, by the time this goes out, that we'll all be getting a bit of vitamin D from the sun, which is excellent.
Yes, and what I do too is I just open up the sliding glass. You got to find a wind protected area because it is still winter.
Yeah,
and it's just the best because we do know we have lost the ancient wisdom, perhaps, but intuitively we all feel better on sunny days, and
we do.
Having those rays touch and tickle the skin feels so good.
Yeah, I mean, this podcast is about energy, and the reason that I started it is I never really was into all this stuff, and then I got very ill, and I got a virus in the jungle, and funnily enough, the symptoms that I had were quite similar to a kind of a long COVID situation. A lot of time off work and in bed and a lot of fatigue. And so I kind of thought, well, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, do a podcast about energy and get to try out lots of stuff for free at the same time. But I mean, I think it's quite interesting in terms of energy. You talk about the sun, that is presumably, you call it the sunshine vitamin that you get from vitamin D. And that is one thing that presumably does energize you being in the sun, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. And that when we do have the science, that shows us, like microbial peptides are created, we understand now that we have thousands of vitamin D receptors on, all over our skin and in places where the sun doesn't shine. And those vitamin D receptors need that interactive action of sunbeam and skin because it's a different vitamin D that's created. It's very rich in a very essential cholesterol sulfate. I think of it as this liquid sunshine. It's this precursor to a bunch of hormonal and peptide functions. And it's a water-soluble vitamin D that's created. And the supplement is a fat-soluble vitamin D.
Yeah. Because you talk about sunshine, and you also, since I've been reading your book, I've been really trying to get outside in the morning for my eyes as well, getting as much light into the eyes, just absorbing as much eyes. I think you said the average 45-year-old only absorbs half as much blue light, which made me shudder a little bit. And so I've been trying to be getting out twice as long to get more light in the eyes. But that's important as well for energy, isn't it?
Yes, and our circadian rhythms, and also the light. There's a place sort of in the center of the brain, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which it activates. And again, we don't know what all these things do in the body, but we know that they are supposed to be engaging with the elements. We are living in relationship to these forces of the universe. And it's wonderful that it's like 2021 and we have houses and running waters, generally speaking. So it's like we don't have to brave the elements like we used to, but we want to keep up that relationship. Like, it's fun. It doesn't have to be a survival relationship anymore, but we need the sun and fresh air and water and the gifts of the earth to be our, our finest bathing attendants, to be our energy producers, our energy creators, because again, it's not necessarily going to be another bottle of cream or a bottle of a supplement that's really going to get to the core of how we're rejuvenating our bodies, how are we resourcing our source energy. And I really feel like it comes from a relationship with the elements.
Again, so important at the moment, isn't it? I mean, with everything going on, I mean, I know you're in lockdown and so are we as we record this. And I feel that actually, in a funny kind of way, I certainly wouldn't choose this situation, but one does have to go back to basics. And I do feel like I'm watching the passing of the time and the seasons and noticing that a little bit more than normal because I can't go on holiday and I can't distract myself or even kind of go out for a late night. And therefore the little things like, I don't know, the first daffodils poking out or the slightly longer days, one does notice a little bit more. And I hope that's the case for a lot of people. Are you finding that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like for those of us that, don't have to be in a more survival mode economically or all that kind of stuff, like if we're okay, then, we can dive into other stuff. And like I do like going away. I usually kind of have set that up in my life for the winter because we do have long winters here.
Yeah.
But it's really fun this year. I just feel like, I'm going to be with each day as we climb towards the solstice, the summer solstice, which is just my favorite moment.
Yeah.
So the days get longer. We have the sun out till about 10 o'clock at night.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
I love that. And it's just really, and I'm anticipating the exciting return of the vitamin D rays here in my, here instead of Hawaii.
Yeah.
And just being with things and slowing down, there is a lot of benefit to it.
So if we're focusing in on energy, we've already spoken about the sunshine vitamin and absorbing the blue light as well. We've obviously spoken about the essential oils on the skin, and we'll speak a little bit more about that away from kind of SPF in a sec. I know you speak about sunbathing a bit, but in the book you mentioned moon bathing as well. Is that something a self-respecting fella like myself should be considering?
Yes, I think if you think about it more in like meditative state, like, and again, it's not like sunbathing where you have to expose as much of your body as possible. That could be, depending where you are, you're sitting on a park bench, just bringing in that full moon prana or the moon in general. But yeah, I think again, it's about being with these cosmic forces and understanding that we're a part of that. Like there's meteorites that came to the planet with microbes, and those microbes from those meteorites are a part of our ecosystem in our bodies. We are not separate from, anything. Like as from Paracelsus to Joni Mitchell saying like we are stardust,
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I mean, it is the same thing, isn't it? It's reconnecting with the natural world. And I suppose that the current pandemic could send us one of two ways. It could allow humanity to connect a little bit more, or as you say, it for so many people in survival mode, as you put it, then it's not very easy to kind of relax and ease into nature. So
for sure. Yeah. And a lot of people can't even, get to nature right now because maybe they're in an apartment building or something. So it's all relative. But along with the moon bathing or sunbathing, there's also earth bathing, which again, we could look at it scientifically or whatever, but just if you laying on some grass, it's like, that does feel good. We can go back to that simplicity of just like toes squishing in sand, feeling earth, soil, grass. Like these are good things.
Yeah, absolutely. And forest bathing. I know there's a lot of research around forest bathing. I've been looking into it. It's incredible how powerful it can be.
Oh, yeah. And it's fun. I love when they do studies and then we get the good feelings backed up by the good science. It's a good combination. And yeah, basically that's kind of like, how we have diffusers for essential oils. That's like nature's diffusion because the trees are emitting them all the time, and you're kind of walking through this network, from the mycelium network to all the aromas, and it's so good for our soul. And we know that. We know a walk in the woods is a good thing.
Of course we do. Yeah. We also know that coming down the stairs at midday in our underpants and not doing any exercise before lunchtime is not such a good thing, is it? It's
unless you're just walking right out to go sunbathe.
Yeah, exactly.
And you were fasting.
Yeah. Interrupting this podcast for one moment to tell you about my new favourite biohack. You might have heard my podcast recently about essential oils. Now, check this out, because it is an all-natural, non-electronic wooden essential oil inhaler. I just used it before recording this. It's a natural inhaler that helps you inhale essential oils. Very pure, very simple, and it's incredible how much energy it gives you. Definitely gives you a little energy boost, like a kind of half cup of coffee when you do it. It helps you with increased performance, overall wellness. It definitely taps into natural wisdom. And there's all sorts of cores that you can get. You can get standard cores, which are individual flavours like peppermint, eucalyptus, lavender, great for improving mood and relaxation, sleep and brain function. And one of the things which is really interesting is they're looking into it to help giving up smoking as well. They've had some great results with black pepper, which is a natural craving reducer for nicotine. And there's some interesting research on their site around black pepper and their Conquer premium core as well. So a lot of different flavors you can get involved with. A lot of it is about energy, so it ties in perfectly with this podcast as well. And you can use the code Zestology for 10% off store-wide. So with a fume inhaler or the fume cores that you get as well, it's a really nice sensation. If you're someone who likes putting essential oils on in your house, you get a much kind of quicker hit from it, and you get much more essential oils by using the Fume Essential inhaler as well. So use the code Zestology, head to fumeessential.com, and that is spelled F-U-M essential.com. Remember to use that Zestology discount, and if you do, let me know how you get on. As I've already been saying on the podcast, I think my favourite is probably peppermint still, just because I'm all about energy, and I'm definitely getting a little energy boost when I use that. I'm getting more focus as well. But lavender is right up there with my second favourite. And one of the things that I really like about Fume Essential is if you're someone who likes to get a little bit creative, you can create your own blend as well. So you might think, oh, do you know what, today I just want a little bit of clove, a little bit of peppermint, a little bit of cinnamon, maybe some citrus in there. You can just get creative. FumeEssential.com. Use the code Zestology for 10% off. It's a brilliant biohack. It's completely natural, which is so important to me. And I think it taps into the ancient wisdom of using essential oils in a really fantastic, effective way. Back to the show. So let's look at a couple of other things for energy. I can't remember if you spoke about this in the book, but something I've been trying recently, and I'm desperate to talk about it with someone, is mouth taping at night. Have you ever tried that?
Yes. And I love talking about that because I love talking about oral care.
Oh, great.
And I haven't tried it because I don't believe I'm a mouth breather at all. But yeah, my husband did it, and we've recommended it to tons of people because we've known about it. But finally a friend was like, yeah. And yeah, because if you are mouth breathing, you're literally not getting enough oxygen. You're drawing, and also on a level for, cavity prevention, where you're not allowing your saliva to do its job all night long, and then even just immune system, because you don't have the nose hairs filtering everything out. And then in children, it's quite an issue because it can be quite common. Maybe there's a little, maybe there needs to be a little chiropractic or, cranial adjustment, perhaps. Perhaps there's congested sinuses from like a dairy allergy. And I write about this on my braces chapter, and I think I have information also on braces on our website in an article. But because braces also can do this, but the structure of the face grows differently with mouth breathing. And,
wow.
I think when you're born, there's sort of like a blueprint of your potential, what I mean? We don't know it, but there's like a map of what you're going to look like. And you can see that with twins or whatever. So where they've had, either twins with different orthodontic, like one with braces and one didn't, or like mouth breathing, you can literally see how that changed the growth, the structure of the face. Wow. And kind of not for that original DNA plan. It's really incredible. So literally the face will grow differently. And again, that could also be the cause of like early childhood cavities, which are very prevalent. But I mean, but the thing is just doing it, and you will see the difference right when you wake up. And after a week of that, as a grown human, as a grown up, it's life-changing because you're just literally waking up like refreshed and oxygenated.
It's quite an odd sensation. With the first couple of nights you do it, you wake up in the middle of the night a little bit panicky because your lips are stuck together. But yeah, I mean, it's and I know a lot of people who swear by it. Actually, I just wanted to pick up on something you said there. You mentioned nasal hairs filtering stuff out. I give my nasal hairs a little trim. So should I not be doing that?
No, they'll still work. Okay. And you're doing it right at the beginning. I want to say too, like with the tape, it can take a little bit of, some people do it like horizontally, which makes sense, but some people do it vertically, like it's just a reminder, but then they don't feel so panicked. And then, I mean, obviously if you cannot breathe out of your nose, you can't, be doing it, but it's about making the body choose that first. And then some people take the tape and like just kind of put it on their sweater for a second to kind of make it less sticky. And they find that seems to be a little better. And then a lot of people go, not every brand is the same. Like, and again, I'm not talking quality here, more just like, comfort level.
Comfort. Yeah. I think we got a £3 sticky tape, not sticky tape, but surgical tape, not sellotape. Don't use that.
And then some people use kinesio tape, but again, it can be.
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest areas that we've made changes, thanks to you, is oral care and kind of mouth care. So I did want to talk about a little bit that and the link between that and energy. Why is it so important for us to kind of put a bit more thought? Because most of us learn how to clean our teeth when we're children and don't put much effort into it after that. But there's actually, I know now, having read your book, a lot more to it.
Yeah, and I think we're not learning too much when we're I think it takes a long time for kids to really get that dexterity going.
Yeah.
And we kind of like, the way when I grew up, it was like you don't know anything about your teeth and then you just go to the dentist and it's like not that fun. And there's no control over it except like you just didn't brush properly. Yeah. Which really what kid is. I mean, it's very few that have really got that dexterity down to get all the plaque out. So what is going on, and how do we, because when I think of the body systems and stuff, I always think, I'm thinking what's natural, but part of it's like deeper than that. It's sort of like, well, what if we did nothing, or what is the body supposed to be doing anyway before we layered on all our human ideas? And, we're not born with a toothbrush in our hands. So like, what are the systems in the body? And I like to think of this system. There's a dentinal lymph system, which is amazing to discover. So we have a lymphatic system, and there's a glymphatic system we now know for the brain. And there's a dentinal lymph system that's bringing nutrients into the core of the tooth, into the pulp chamber. And that's through the roots. The teeth are like trees drawing up nutrients through the roots into the core and into the pulp chamber of the tooth. And then odontoblasts, which help build the composition of the teeth. They take this liquid and kind of pump it out onto the surface of the teeth where it coalesces like this microscopic sweat. And then that coalesces with the saliva. They intermingle, helping to protect the teeth, or if there's a weak area, they will send, their nutrients and superpowers to that area, much like a kind of a wound on a tree. So that's the force, and it's this inwards centrifugal force that does that pumping. And then what's fascinating is that if we have stress, peak hormonal time, sort of like pregnancy, teen, that can be stressful times. We've got, just poor diet, high in sugar, and not because the sugar's on the teeth, but we're talking about affecting the blood sugar levels, not enough minerals, and then chemicals or cell phone use right by the parotid gland, which is by the jaw and the ear. So all those systems can become stressed, and then the dentinal lymph system becomes stagnant. And then what happens is that then that liquid isn't sort of being moved through. But if it gets worse, that system will actually reverse. And then the tooth starts to suck in from the mouth rather than out and onto the mouth. It's from the mouth into the tooth.
Oh dear.
And then you're bringing in virus, bacteria, and that is the genesis of how a cavity is formed.
Right.
not because of whatever.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, a couple of the things you talk about are there's alkalinizing mouthwash or alkalinizing the mouth.
Yes, which should be coming from the saliva.
Yeah.
So you can, so for mouth breathing, for example, I mean, that's literally cutting off that lubrication that's really needed.
What about in terms of cleaning the gums?
Yeah, so there's 8 steps that I've mapped out. It's in both my books and it's on our website and stuff. So you can go there for the full details. But the first you're rinsing the mouth with either like a water made with a pinch of baking soda or like a sea salt water. That helps to alkalinize. And it's really good for kids too, because again, that they're flushing things out of their mouth. It doesn't have to, no dexterity needed.
Yeah, and it's so simple, isn't it? It's not some fancy mouthwash from the shop. It's probably something that our ancestors did for years and years and years.
Yes, that's again, I like to bring it back to the basics. We don't need the mouthwash with synthetic alcohol that statistically is creating over 36,000 cases of oral cancer a year.
Yeah.
We don't need that.
Yeah.
So that's the first phase. And then the second phase is using a manual brush, either like it could be just a brush, or there's like blotter brushes or ionic brushes. And then, I make these dental serums, which are very potent, or you could, but I also like to give, if you don't have, you don't have to buy from me. And if you're on a budget or whatever, you want to do it today, you can literally use like baking soda to brush your teeth for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And
you'll be like so much better off than any kind of drugstore thing. And then some of the health food store brands, there's things like glycerin, sodium lauryl sulfate, and other ingredients you don't want. And then I have recipes also to make your own. So we got a lot of options. And then you're really like brushing the gum, like you're going right up where the cheek joins. And it's kind of like, if you kind of like dry brushing too, not that it's dry, but where we're stimulating that idea that a brush is stimulating the area, and you want to do it gently. And here's the one thing that people are probably generally going up and down, back and forth. The key thing here is to go in one direction. Just like the boy band. Now you're going one direction, gums to the bottom of the teeth.
Gums, so downwards on the top and upwards from the bottom.
Yes, exactly. And then, it takes a moment to get used to, but that is so key, because where there's the union of gum and tooth, that gum line is so precious. And it's where a lot of, disharmony can start. I'm sure many listeners have maybe been to the dentist and they've been like, oh, your gum pockets are like at a, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And you want to have them at a 1, 2, 3. That's sort of when the gums start receding.
Yeah.
And that's key to bring them back down.
So you can bring it back.
Yeah, it takes it takes a moment, but you can really turn things around and see progress within about 3 months.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I found after about 3 days of doing that technique, so that the kind of alkalinizing first and then doing the gum with the brush, my whole mouth felt, the only way I can describe it is tighter. The gums felt tighter. It was a lovely sensation. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, generally, if you do the real full protocol, I mean, it'll feel better, like, within 24 hours. But that, like, I do recommend, like, 3-6 months, especially now, a lot of people just can't even go to the dentist for just the regular stuff. So really, if you focus in on that, and in a normal time, I recommend doing that before you go to the dentist anyway, the 8 steps twice a day, because it can really turn your mouth around, and it can bring, it can clear some things up too, so that when you're at the dentist, then it won't be a whole bunch of issues, perhaps, or perhaps you've solved some. And then, it hopefully can be a shorter, less expensive appointment as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure all the knock-on effects across the body from having a healthy mouth as well. So, and energy too.
Yes. Yeah. Because, and a lot of functional medicine doctors understand this, is that really, a lot of autoimmune issues, there's, some docs feel that, 80% of all imbalance and disease in the body is started in the mouth.
Yeah. Is that the Weston A. Price stuff?
I don't know. No. I mean, he's got, I don't think he made that. I think that we've had more hindsight to kind of make that stat.
Okay. Yeah.
But he definitely is part of like us understanding why there's that connection, you know, why things are going into the bloodstream, you know, where there can be jaw infections or cavitations and that kind of stuff that are just, you know, or plaque or biofilms that are just, you know, which will affect the lungs and create plaque and biofilms in other parts of the body.
Well, I feel quite kind of calm and energized talking to you. There's obviously a very calming demeanor, Nadine, that you've got.
Thanks.
Very, very nice to talk to you. What is here's two questions for you that I ask everybody. What is one book that you would recommend and one tip for living with more energy and vitality?
One of my favorite thinkers is Jiddu Krishnamurti, and I love his book, Total Freedom.
Okay.
Which I think is a great thing. It's just, you know, it just goes into thought and, you know, it's just, he's a thinker. It's, so I think it's a good thing right now because it's understanding, you know, total freedom sort of being from within, sort of the revolution is from within.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing for us to, you know, get in touch with right now as we're in lockdown, understanding total freedom.
Yeah.
And,
definitely. Yeah.
And I just remembered, you know, that Bob Dylan song, Hurricane, and it's about that boxer that was, you know, jailed.
Remind me, because I'm a big fan of Bob Dylan, but he's got a lot of songs.
I can't. I wish I could sing it for you, even though it might not be hard to do Bob Dylan. But anyway, but it's a great song. And but it's about a boxer that was jailed for, you know, just wrongly. Yeah. And I don't know I can't remember how long he was in jail. But he read Krishnamurti. Yeah, that's, you know, because he was like, I've got to get a grip on my mind because freedom is within. So that just came to me. So I thought I'd share that.
That does seem very, very appropriate for what we're all going through at the moment. Yes. I mean, we really do have to focus on the small things.
Yes. Yeah. And understanding like the internal freedom. And is it, you know, what, you know, again, not being so tied up in the external.
Yeah. Yeah. What about one tip for living with more energy and vitality? Obviously, we've pretty much focused for the last half hour on tips for energy and vitality, but is there one that springs to mind, perhaps one that we haven't mentioned or something in general?
Yeah. I mean, I really think getting in the sun and really getting a grip on, you know, doing those 8 steps for oral care. But to tie in with the book I mentioned, Total Freedom. Yeah. I think if, you know, in whatever way possible, through just slowing down thinking or meditating, is sort of understanding the areas in your life where you may be feeling split energy. Because I feel like that is the biggest zapper of energy. So by split energy, I mean like split thinking, like I got to do this, but I don't want to. And like sometimes you just got to make that decision. Or whatever you need to think in that moment. But just really it's about being aware of where your energy is split, because there's not going to be forward momentum. And that's the little areas that are probably creating some stagnancy. Yeah.
That's one of the reasons that I love doing this podcast, because energy can mean so many different things, from literally, you know, being able to run a mile longer to kind of the hidden unseen forces between us and the things that drive us and the things that don't.
Well, I think, and for the split energy, it's really that crux, which can feel liberating or it can feel like a schism when you've got a situation going on between desire and doubt. And that is such an internal battle that I feel is such a zapper of energy.
Absolutely.
I want this, but and just see where you're doing that to yourself.
I find that when I sit down, when I've got something really like niggly to write that is really intense and I need to focus heavily, I'll find a million other things to procrastinate before I do it. So that's
but then if you're okay, but you know, then feel good about that procrastination.
Okay.
You know, you rock the procrastination, because then you just decide to procrastinate and own it.
Okay, that's what I need to do. I don't feel good about the procrastination at the moment. I just do it.
Yeah, so now you got to sort of turn it around and just start feeling at least neutral about it and maybe feeling better about it.
Great. Well, look, Nadine, it's been really nice to talk to you. Where can people find out more about you and Living Libations and the books and everything else?
Well, we've got our lovely livinglibations.com website. You can email us questions. We do free consults. You can kind of ask us anything, and we hope that we'll have an answer or send you in a path that will. And the consults are really fun. We have like whole families call in and stuff.
Great.
And then there's an Instagram. I've got Nadine Artemis official, and there's a Living Libations one, and Facebook and YouTube.
Yeah, well, as I say, I've been following you on Instagram. It's very snowy with you at the moment. When does the snow clear?
Oh my God, probably the end of March.
Right. Okay.
But we can still get our vitamin D.
You can. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to be checking out D-Minder as well. Nadine, lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
Hope to chat to you again at some point. And enjoy the changing seasons that are coming soon.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you to Nadine, and thank you for listening to Zestology. Over the next month, I've got guests coming from Colombia, Tenerife, the USA and Mexico. It's all coming over the next 4 weeks, so I hope you'll be able to join me for that. And a quick reminder that this week's podcast partners are Fume, a great tool for smoking cessation, and you will have heard me talk about that a little bit on this podcast already, but also for increased performance and energy. And this podcast is all about energy, and I'm really trying to focus in on it at the moment. And I do notice when I take a little chug on these fumes, which are all completely natural, no smoke, no vape, it's very easy and portable. I do notice that I get a buzz from the different types of cores that they have. These, they have peppermint and eucalyptus and lavender. And then they have these kind of blended cores as well, which is something that I really like the idea of, which is reassurance, shield, and a kind of craving buster core, which they call Conquer, which has cinnamon, peppermint, eucalyptus and black pepper as well. So it's quite a fun thing to experiment with. And if you want to get involved with Fume, you can use the code Zestology10 for 10% off. It's fumeessential.com, FUM, and use the code Zestology10 for 10% off. And let me know how you get on with your kind of energy tracking on it, because I'm sure you do a little bit of tracking. When you use it, do you get a little boost of energy? I'd love to know, and I'd love to hear. That is it for Zestology. As I said at the start of the podcast, it's so good to be outside again, recording these podcast intros. I know I normally do it, and this winter, what with lockdown and the bad weather, I seem to have been forced inside a little bit, but I'm out here now, and that's good. And obviously, Nadine talking about the vitamin D factor. Now we're into March. Yeah, we're getting vitamin D from the sun again. In fact, I was sunbathing last week. In the spirit of Nadine's wisdom, I lay on my beanbag in the sun for about an hour and a half and felt good. The moment the sun moved behind a cloud, it got chilly. But it's lovely to be back. All right, thanks for listening. Have a good week, and I'll see you next time.